Hi, I'm Neil with Receptive Skepticism Bremerton. Today we're going to talk about how to have an effective argument with yourself and win. We're going to be focusing a lot on how to end habits and how to build habits before we talked about the Swish Pattern so that you can have that little bit of extra time to evaluate what you're about to do. So the first thing I'm going to want you to do is to think about what you tell yourself right before you do the bad thing. So let's say you have a habit of eating donuts. I pass by a little cafe on my way to work every day and they sell donuts. And the worst part of me, the part that's hungry and has that little sweet tooth, he always says, Neil, you need to go over there. That one looks so good. So I'm going to write that down, that little statement. That donut looks so good. And right next to it, while I'm smart, while I've got my wits about me and my good energy, I'm going to write right next to it, it doesn't look good enough. It's not consistent with your diet. It's not going to do you favors. It's not going to make you happy. All the things that I believe for why I don't want that donut. I'm not going to write anyone else's reasons. I'm only going to write my reasons because it's only going to convince me. And I'm going to list all of the things that I tell myself that bring me to that donut. And if I think of another one throughout the day, I'm going to add it to my list. If you just keep this list going for the rest of your life. You don't have to write all of them down necessarily, but you definitely want to memorize the biggest ones. If there's one thing that you always say right when you walk by the donuts, and then after you eat, they're like, I should have told myself that. That's the point. You don't want to be hungry and tired, and then you see the donuts at your weakest, and then you can't win that argument. Have your talking points ready. When you're your smartest, have your smartest lines just front and center, so that as soon as you see that donut, you know, like, that's my reason to eat a donut. Here's the counter. That's another reason to eat the donut. Here's the next counter. Just have them ready, because when you're really hungry and tired, you're going to come up with every little excuse. You're going to find every loophole in the rules that you made for yourself about why this diet needs to start tomorrow. Is it really a donut? I mean, technically that one's a bear claw, so it's not quite a donut. So I haven't promised myself I'm not going to have a donut. Be ready. You'll have that conversation with yourself ahead of time so that you can't weasel out of it. Obviously, if you eat the donut and you've completely forgot to argue with yourself ahead of time, that means you need to strengthen your swish pattern. You need a better trigger so that once you hear that thought in your head, donut, that will trigger in your head, oh wait, I'm going into my donut pattern. I need to really evaluate this situation. And then you can start having that conversation with yourself. Do I want this donut? Yes, you do. Why? Because it's sweet. That's not a good enough reason. My smartest, best self told me that's not a good reason. I need a better one. Well, because you've been good today. Nope, I don't have a goodness clause. Go down that list that you prepared for yourself. Two things to remember. Your worst self is really not in a good position to negotiate anyways. That person isn't doing you favors. Whenever you hear that voice that says, donut, we've already had this discussion, worst self. You lose. We've already decided on these ground rules about what's going to make me my best self so I can get slim and so I can accomplish my goals. That person, that hungry, needy one, really doesn't deserve a say. That's not the one that really makes your life better. Everything that you've accomplished has come from your best self. So let's take advice from him. And on top of that, the techniques that I'm sharing are not always going to be enough. You still have to do the hard work and walk away and rely on your inner power. I'm going to give you some tools that help, but never assume that any tool that I give you is going to fix the problem. You still have to do it the hard way. You're still a real live person who has to make these decisions. So if your tool's not strong enough, just do it anyways. You still have cravings. You just have to suck it up and deal with it, even when it sucks. And of course, if the person you're arguing with, and we're still talking about yourself, if the person you're arguing with is unreasonable, you have to get up and walk away from the argument. And you're going to say, well, how do I do that? How do I walk away from myself? And change the subject. We all know the old exercise. Don't think of an elephant. Did you think of an elephant? Yes, you did. Why did you think of an elephant? Well, because I was thinking about not thinking of an elephant. There's no way around it. The answer is extremely simple. When I say don't think of an elephant, think of a gorilla. Don't think of an elephant. It works. It works just that fast. So there's a few things you can do. You can get up, you can walk away, or you can think about ninjas. Why ninjas? Because I've never said, oh, I'm so hungry. I crave sugar so much because I'm thinking about ninjas and how awesome they are. On top of that, we're all a lot less hungry, and we have a lot less cravings when we're just busy. If you can stay on your feet and you can stay moving, you can stay involved in your big project, that's going to really help you out with your cravings. The time when we're in the most trouble is when we're bored or when we're depressed. You're walking, commuting, and you've got these opportunities all around you. Remove yourself from those situations and stay involved in things that make your life better. If you can just get through the day doing productive things, you won't think about sugar. It's not a real thing that you need. What you need is to improve your life and to stay busy. And here's another thing. That little voice in your head that's saying that you need the donut, there's a very good chance that that's a yeast-based parasite in your belly called Candida. It's a real thing. I'm not making it up. You can check it out on the internet. It's a bunch of yeast that lives in your belly and says that you need sugar. It's completely incoherent and nonverbal, but somehow it's totally persuasive. That's who you're arguing with. On the one hand, you decide, I really want to be slim, I want to be strong, I want to move forward, I want to have better energy, I want to have a better physique, I want to be sexier. But on the other hand, let's hear what the yeast-based parasite in my belly has to say on the matter, because he gets his vote too. Why does he get a vote? What has the yeast-based parasite ever done to make your life better that you want his say on what you eat and do? Now, it's entirely possible for whatever reason that you just eat the donut anyways. That maybe you didn't think about it, or maybe you ate the donut. Don't ignore that. That is important data. You need to take that into account. First of all, you have to strengthen your swish pattern if you ate it without noticing. If you're halfway through the donut and you remembered, I just remembered I'm not supposed to eat the donut, that's a swish pattern problem. So go back to the last video and strengthen that trigger so that once you see the donut, you remember that you're on a diet. You remember you're not supposed to do that. Step 2, throw the donut away. Even though it's wasteful. That donut costs 35 cents, maybe 50 cents. You can waste 50 cents. I mean, unless you are starving to death poor, you are better off without it. I grew up poor. I know it feels really bad to waste food. I know that when I was young, the idea of wasting food was incomprehensible. People would scream if you would, wasted that kind of food. You're not there anymore. If you're not in that station, you are just better off without pastries, and you can just get rid of it. I mean, you wouldn't accept free cigarettes or free heroin. Why would you accept free sugar or sugar that you've already paid for? You are not the person who needs that kind of thing in your life. You are better off without it. You've already made that decision. Get rid of it. If you have a lot of anxiety because you're hungry, or you have anxiety because you're breaking your routine, I would say just imagine that a friend of yours, some imaginary friend, comes up to you and tells you this situation, like, gosh, I'm really anxious. I've got all this fear. I've got all this hunger, but I really want to stick with my diet. What should I do? I bet you would be very sympathetic and you would give a good, warm answer. It's not that bad. Calm down. You're still going to be okay. Just go about your day. Let me give you a hug, and we'll do the next thing. We'll walk away. I'm sure whatever compassion answer you give to your imaginary friend is going to be sufficient. We're often kinder to other people than we are to ourselves. So consider the compassion that you would show to your friend if the compassion you're showing to yourself isn't quite adequate. And if this habit is really ingrained, this is a part of your routine, that the last step is to replace something, with it. So if you're spending 10 minutes every day doing X, you're going to have to put a Y there. And I don't fully understand why, but people are far more successful when they replace one habit with another habit. Hopefully make it a good one. I hope this helps someone out there. If you think I've missed a step, go ahead and leave that down in the messages in a respectful manner, and I will get back to you if I can. If you want to meet me, there's a link down in the fudda mudda buh. I'm Neil with Receptive Skepticism. Feel good, because everything is easier when you feel good.